He absolutely was the best there was. Bill Wallace, Joe Louis, no slouch himself. These guys are amazing. You will see some amazing action here. Let's get to it. We'll go up to our ring announcer, Les Kynette.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, kickboxing fans, we are set to go. Another bout of rock and sock. Introducing, fighting out of the blue corner and wearing the blue trunks. His current age, 46, weighed in this afternoon at 199 pounds. A professional kickboxing record, 18 wins, 3 losses, no draws, and of those big 18 wins, 16 via the knockout route. He is the first heavyweight world champion from Carolina Beach, North Carolina, the Golden Boy, Joey Louis. Joe Louis. And to my right, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the gray pants, age 45, weighed in this afternoon at 166 pounds. A professional kickboxing record, 23 wins, no losses, no draws, and of those 23 victories, 13 via the knockout route. He is the first middleweight world champion from Memphis, Tennessee, now fighting out of Los Angeles, California, Bill Superfoot Wallace. Bill Wallace. 7 rounds. This is speed versus power. Your referee, Mr. Joe Mastis.
8 minimum kicks. We'll just break tonight. When I say break, break clean. If anything besides the fight, his feet touch the ground, let's stop the attack. Let's have a good, clean fight. Good luck to both of you gentlemen.
As we look at our physical stats there, this is a very special fight that was approved by the Nevada State Boxing Commission here. Joe Louis with a 33-pound weight advantage over Bill Wallace is really the major factor here. Wallace with a lot of speed, he has the kicking advantage, but Louis is so powerful.
And here we go, round number 1. Wallace puts out the glove to touch, and Louis ain't having it. Now, these two guys are best of friends, but I'll tell you what, it don't count inside these ropes. Bill Wallace in the gray, Joe Louis in the blue. Again, Wallace snaps that kick out there. You will not see a faster kicker anywhere, at least not that I've seen anywhere. Louis, of course, a very powerful man. And the hook kick over the top. The 33 pounds here, John, would almost dictate that Bill Wallace would be moving around a lot more than he is, but Wallace is the stalker at this moment in time.
Louis wants to take a little time here to get a little feel for the timing. He wants to get just a sense of how fast that front leg is going to come in. He knows that's what's going to be the #1 tool. He'd like to get out here and get Bill Wallace to throw a lot of those kicks in the first round so he can kind of get a feel of it.
And all you folks at home who are in the 35 to 45 and on up range, I got to tell you something. I don't know about you, but it tickles me to death to see guys like this, 45 and 46 years old in this kind of shape doing this kind of work. Tells you that there is everything is not a young man's game, or a young woman's game for that matter. Again, Wallace with a very fast front leg. They call him Superfoot because a long time ago, when he was fighting, he had knocked somebody out with a kick, and his manager at the time was Don Quine, went to the Lakers game and saw a sign that said Superfoot Long Hot Dogs, and believe it or not, despite what you may have heard, folks, that's where the name came from. The legends are a lot better than the reality, the truth of it is.
Well, it's lucky for Wallace that he didn't decide to call him Superfoot Hot Dog.
Couple of good left hooks into the rib and a right hand into the forehead by Joe Louis, as Louis showing some power and Wallace in the corner there. And you wonder if that's the right place for Bill to be. Straight left jab by Wallace that lands the hook coming off of there. And as we come to the end of round 1, Joe Louis and Bill Wallace tapping hands. And you might be right, John. It might just be that Joe wanted to see what this is going to be like. I think Bill probably showed him whatever speed there is there. As you look into the corner, Chuck Francis working with Bill Wallace there. What do you tell a Bill Wallace? Hey, Bill, here's what you're doing wrong. I mean, this is a guy who does seminars pretty much every week and shakes more hands than a presidential candidate.
All you do is ask him what he wants.
Yeah. Toss a little water. And there's Chuck Norris over in the corner. Maybe we can get him to come out and fight Wallace next, or one of these guys anyway. Chuck, of course, has never been a kickboxer, but he was a great point fighter and has gone on to be a very, very successful actor.
You know, Chuck Norris and Joe Louis had some classic point bouts back in the middle 60s. They were really just the absolute epitome of the sport at that time. Joe Louis came along a little behind Norris, and then Wallace came along a little behind Louis, actually.
Yeah. And you look at these two guys as we get into round 2 of a scheduled 7 rounds here. Another thing that the conditioning of these guys and the talent, the ability of these guys, is it tells you that if you youngsters out there are willing to make the effort to learn this sport and keep up with your training, it's as good an exercise as any you'll find. This is what you're going to look like when you're 45 instead of what your dad probably looks like. And I say that with all modesty because I look like your dad probably, maybe even heavier.
You know, it's interesting to watch Louis now. Louis wanting to work inside and wanting to get the hands. He's got the stronger arms, stronger punches, but he's having a little problem dealing with that front leg, and that, as everybody always has. You know, Bill Wallace as a point fighter was so predictable. Everybody knew exactly what he was going to do. He was going to kick you in the face with his left leg, and he was going to maybe slap you with a left back fist with his front hand, and he was the #1 point fighter for about 4 years in a row doing just that.
Absolutely, and Wallace says, you know, he says, I love to kick people in the head, and Joe Louis likes to hit people in the head, and so that's what we're going to try to do. Really hasn't done much damage with that front leg, but he keeps Joe from doing what he wants to do, so in effect, it's really doing the job, John.
Well, Louis needs to be exercising his front hand a little bit more. He needs to be sticking that front leg out a little more convincingly. And nice round kick there.
That kick by Wallace faked the first, landed the second. That one landed and got Joe's attention. Wallace again carrying that left hand very low. And that front kick coming in there looked to be blocked. From this angle, it was hard to see because Lewis's back is directly to us.
Well, this was what Louis was talking about in the little profile piece that we saw, is that Wallace drops his hands a little bit when he throws his kicks. Louis would like to step in and land the right hand, but he's kind of dropping his hands as he moves across.
Louis with a couple of shots into the ribs there as they clinch up. And again, Louis looked like he's getting ready to throw something, and Wallace put that foot up there. Didn't hit him with it, but he made him deal with it. And as he just did there. And you have to deal with that foot, whether it hits you or not. You got to deal with it, and it stops your momentum, stops what you're trying to do. As we're at the end of round number 2, and John, I guess we ought to ask you about the score here. How have you got it scored?
Well, I've got Wallace ahead after the first 2 rounds. He landed a couple of pretty strong kicks. He really was kind of controlling the pace, what it looks to me like controlling the pace and the tone of this fight so far, as we look into the corner there with Joe Louis. You know, Wallace has a tendency to throw that quick front leg single round kick, bam, one time, and then he'll come back occasionally, he'll throw it as a double. And a lot of guys try to lean out of that first kick and then come inside for the second. And there you see Joe Louis just ducked right into that, as so many people have before him. He just ran his forehead right into that left foot.
For those of you, few among you who may not be familiar with Wallace, the reason you see him only throwing his left foot is he cannot throw his right foot. He was doing judo some years ago and basically turned the ligaments in his knee into spaghetti. And he can only kick with his left leg. He uses the right leg. You'll see a brace on the leg if you look through the sometimes when he bends his leg, you can see the brace through the pants. Wallace, this great of a fighter with only one leg to kick with.
Those of us who've been around a few years probably remember Louis now throws a good body shot and a couple of left hooks in there, but he needs to stay busier when he's on the ropes.
And again, these two guys, best of friends everywhere but inside of these ropes. And I can promise you this, Wallace is in there talking to him too. Wallace loves to talk to him. Wallace loves to talk to anybody. There's a left hook by Louis that lands. Another left hook